Yeah. So here we have a first attraction, the Beethoven house. So Ludwig van Beethoven, as I told you, spent a lot of time in the Vienna woods, and he spent a few summers here. And this is a house where he composed a part of the Ninth Symphony. Ninth Symphony is a very long song, so he composed parts in different houses, and this is known as the House of the Ninth Symphony. There is also a Beethoven museum installed in that house nowadays. And we take now the house of the town hall, which is leading us to the main square of the city center, of the pedestrian area. Let's go this way. Okay, so here we are in the main pedestrian area. Come a bit closer, please. Yes. And we see here, as we have seen in the monastery, the slate column, or Trinity column, in Baroque style as well. So same story always, to celebrate the final victory against the Turks at the end of the Great Plague epidemics. All these columns always built in the 18th century in Baroque style. So that's the plate column of Baden with a fountain. That's quite special because usually you have just the plate column, not a fountain. Just two towns where we have a fountain close to the plate column in Austria. So that's also quite special. And here on this square we have the town hall, Rathaus. That means the town hall in classicism style, in Biedermeier style, built by an architect called Kornhäusel. Kornhäusel was the main architect for Biedermeier style here in Baden. So almost all the town was built by him then after this fire, and he also built a few houses in Vienna. So that was 19th century. And the house of the emperor, it's just behind the fountain, behind the plate column, the house with the green windows here. That's the house where the emperor spent the summertime. So we're talking here about Emperor Francis II, Francis I, who had a double title as an emperor because he was emperor of the Holy Roman Empire of Germany as Francis II, and he created the Austrian Empire in 1804. That was a response to the politics of Napoleon, who had declared himself emperor of the French. So Francis II decided to create a new empire, the Habsburg Empire, the Austrian Empire, and he was Francis I of this Austrian Empire, and this was not an empire before that. So he had a double title of emperor, and he spent his summertime here 30 years long. So when he came here, it was with his family, with the imperial court, with many artists coming to Baden with him, and that's why the town became also very important in the 19th century, and it is still nowadays a bit of luxury spa town close to Vienna. So there's still many persons coming here to the spas from Vienna, so coming here to Baden by Vienna, and it's still nowadays the case. So I don't know. Stop here, and we see this little door here in the corner. You know, in former times Baden was a small town, and around the town there were fortification walls, and outside of the fortification walls you had the wine taverns, the Heurigens. And at sunset the doors of the city walls were closed, so everybody had to be back in town at that moment. But some persons wanted to stay longer at the wine taverns outside of the walls. And so they built a little door. It's not this door here, but it's through this door. You are arriving through this door, which was made in the city walls, and it was always open for the persons who wanted to come back at night from the wine taverns secretly. It was like a secret door in this fortification. Was just for the wine amateurs who were spending more time at the wine taverns after sunset. We continue to the theater square. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, here we are on the theater square, and we see the theater here, the Jubilee Theater, because this theater was built in 1908 for the 60 years Jubilee of Emperor Francis Joseph. Emperor Francis Joseph reigned in total 68 years long, from 1848 until 1916. Then he died in the middle of the First World War at the age of 86. So to celebrate his Jubilee, 60 years Jubilee, this theater was built by two architects, Helmer and Felmer, they were really used to build some theater houses. They built 48 theater houses in the monarchy. So they had really almost always the same plans for their theaters and opera houses. And in former times there was a theater there, but it was too small, it had become too small, and there had been a fire, and so the old theater was replaced by this one. This is the winter theater from October to March, and from then they have break, and from June to September they use the summer arena, which is in the park behind the casino, because in Baden there's also a famous casino, and there you have the summer arena used in the summertime for the theater plays. And here we see the sign of the town. You see these packet with two persons, a man and a woman in the bathing. So this is the sign, the official sign, the coat of arms of the town of Baden. This was given by Emperor Frederick III to the town of Baden, you see, in 1480 already. So of course it's not usual that men and women were bathing naked in the same swimming pool. That was just the sign of the town, but it was usual that they were in the same swimming pool. But really, women, of course, dress a lot. And yeah, there were the moral was a bit low at the swimming pools here in Baden, at the spas. They were bathing during hours. There was no limit of time to stay in the bath. At that moment, they didn't. You know, nowadays if you go to a spa, you have to stay 10 minutes or 20 minutes maximum, because otherwise it's bad also for your hands to stay too long in that spa water. But at that time they didn't know anything about that, and persons were staying the whole day in the spas. They were eating there, they were dancing, they were singing, they were inventing special songs for that. Some persons were coming and visiting them from the side of the swimming pool and talking to them. That was really usual. And in the 17th century, the emperor decided to make a new law, and he wanted to prohibit that men and women were in the same swimming pool. He wanted to have different spas for men and women, but then the town of Baden protested against that, and they could keep their rights to have their spas as they always had, and so that's also why Baden was very popular, because it was a bit very pleasant for the people also to go to the spas here. Yeah, and behind this square, so at the next square we have the church of the parish, the church of Baden by Vienna, a St. Stephen's church also dedicated to St. Stephen, like in Vienna. And we can go this way. We have the park of the casino beginning there. We walk by the casino and back to the square where we have the bus. Yeah, so it's a very famous casino. It's one of the biggest casinos in Europe, and there are about 300 or 400 persons working there. But the taxes, the income they have and the taxes the city has from this casino is like for 3,000 or 4,000 employees. So it's a very important source of income here in Baden, the casino. And the park behind the casino is also a beautiful park. The fountain you have here is a fountain using the spa water from one of the springs. And in the back you see the arena. This is the summer theater. I told you the other one was the winter theater, and this is the summer theater in the arena. They have a glass ceiling, a glass roof, as you can see, behind the dome you have the glass roof of the arena, and they can open it in the summertime if the weather is nice. Then they have open air performances at this theater. And the park is also beautiful, and you can walk to the park and then you arrive to the woods. So there's no transition. You go from the park to the Vienna woods immediately, walking up the hill, and it's also, then you have the hiking ways where you can walk to Heiligenkreuz, to Mayerling, where we have been this morning.